I don't know.
So we should, of course, I will start with refuge because we're sort of directing ourselves in a certain path. So I go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha from now until enlightenment. I'll work for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all beings be happy. I go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha from now until enlightenment. I'll work for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all beings be happy. I go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha from now until enlightenment. I'll work for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all beings be happy. Okay. Now, first, I just want to do a presentation, and then I'll open it up for questions and such. So, when you look at your practice, again, this is a very Buddhist point of view. You're looking at a continuity of yourself, and you're looking to improve that. So, we have, well, let's say again, this is a very Buddhist point of view. I will talk about it in other terms in a sec, but we have our past life that gave us this particular rebirth, gave us certain circumstances and things, certain inclinations. And then in this life, we had mother and father, the culture we're part of, the country we're part of, and those things. And then what we have, of course, is that we're projecting towards where we'd like to go with ourselves, both, whether into the future or into another life. And so there's this greater concept of who you are. And that's really actually quite important. So you could do it even within this one rebirth, coming from your birth and who your parents were and such, and then the current situation, and then what you'd like to have, 10, 20, 30 years from now. So it does work within that context too, but if you do expand your mind to take into consideration past and future lives, it's a much larger approach to things. And you could then sometimes understand some of the karma that you're experiencing. It doesn't really have much of a basis in this rebirth, but for some reason it keeps coming up. So obviously there's some connection. Again, if you, when you study the graduated path, there is, of course, I won the lottery ticket of precious human rebirth. I know what's important and not important. I'm inspired by Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. I'm being more conscientious of my karma. In regards to karma thing, if something's happening in your life, there's some sort of a connection to it. And if sort of something starts to happen and it has no impact on you whatsoever, then obviously you have no karma in that area. Whereas if something starts to happen and you get, involved or caught up with it very deeply, then obviously you have some karma there. And when you again look at it in the context of many rebirths, it can be a little bit more interesting to say like what might have happened. So for a lot of you, let's say, for example, for myself, I certainly could have come through World War II. For some of you, maybe the Vietnam War, or just sort of whatever's happening in the world, depends again on your age. But I'm just trying to give you sort of like, when you think of yourself, don't think of yourself as some sort of isolated, independent thing. Rather, you're in this flow. Okay, now, the reason why we're doing the practices we're doing is to, might say, tidy things up. So prostrations, again, is to be more inspired by, things that can have a deeper meaning in our life. So rather than putting great value to our money or to, things that we might possess or our standing in society or something, all of those things are impermanent, don't last, they'll change. So we put emphasis to inner quality. And actually, my teacher, Lama Yeshe, said really the word Nangpa, which is the Buddhist word or Tibetan word for being a Buddhist, means inside. Nangpa means I'm inside, an inside person. So it means you're putting more emphasis to your inner life and your continuity of who you are. Now, obviously, we're going to be affected by circumstances. There's just no doubt about that. So if something happens in the family or something happens with us or something's happening in our country, it can affect us. But it's going to be filtered by our inner quality. That's what's going to decide or help us decide what we're going to do or how we're going to deal with that situation. Now, the preliminary practices I explained earlier, like putting money in a bank account. And so if you do them, with enthusiasm and sincerity and such, then you're putting a lot of good energy into the bank account of your flow of consciousness. And then when things happen, you might have, let's say, a less severe experience, or just things improve. It doesn't have to be seen as something bad. Just life gets better because, hey, you're happier. You have a nice consistency about yourself. So rather than just being an ordinary person whose mind's like a yo-yo, today I'm happy, tomorrow I'm sad, today I'm happy, that's sort of very fluctuating. With a good Dharma practice, you end up being a lot more steady, but in being steady, it means you're actually more happy. You just don't get bothered by things. And I'm sure some of you already have that experience, that there's just some things that happen in the world and they're completely meaningless for you. That doesn't bug me at all. And other things maybe bother you a little bit. So preliminary practices are that. Prostrations are said to purify very heavy karma that we might have accumulated. Then Vajrasattva, of course, can be for more things that we carry, sort of luggage, within our emotional or mental life, that some event that maybe happened and we acted in an inappropriate way or something. So again, in both prostrations and in the Vajrasattva, you do what's called the four opponent powers. Like first one's called regret, but basically means, whoa, that hurts and I never want to do it again. So I regret that. Again, it's completely different than guilt. Guilt is sort of like you're holding on to it, whereas the regret is like, whoa, okay, that's not good. I don't want to do that again. And so you have a very clear decision. I'm going to go in another direction, which then is step number 2, taking refuge, being inspired by Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, or spiritual practice. Step number 3 is then the actual technique that you're using, in this case, prostration or Vajrasattva. And then finally, you end up with dedicating yourself in an appropriate way. So all of that basically is you're cultivating yourself. And as I said, you're putting money in the bank account of being able to have better ability to deal with things if they were to ripen. So that's a really nice thing. So called purification, but you could also call it like the accruing the qualities or capacities to be more resilient. So that's the first thing. Then the second one, the big one, of course, is Guru Yoga. And that's where you should really start to find some sense of inspiration about who your teachers are. And again, every teacher manifests a little differently, so understand that. I mean, if I think of Lama Thupten Yeshe, he was blissful and incredibly adaptable. If I think of Lingam Rinpoche, he was unbelievably powerful and clear, very steady. Dalai Lama is just love and compassion. Again, other teachers maybe not sort of as high end as that. You have Geshes and teachers that maybe you spend time with. Just you say, well, that's a nice quality. That person has a nice quality. So your Guru Yoga actually makes you much more receptive to receiving teachings because you actually appreciate that teachers are important. So in regards to Guru Yoga, you could say you're making a channel between yourself and your teachers to hear their words and feel a greater sense of inspiration about it. So that's what Guru Yoga is on one side. And the other side of Guru Yoga is that, if you keep good commitment, to the best of your ability, you've got, whether it's Succession Guru Yoga or saying Vajrayagani's mantra or whatever, when you come in front of your guru, you can say, hey, I've done what I'm supposed to do. Whereas just think of the opposite, and that is like you come in your guru and say, oh, I'm so sorry, I broke my commitment, I haven't been able to do this, I haven't been able to do that. You've automatically blocked all of the possibility of receiving inspiration because you've got to sort of go through, oh, I'm a bad boy or guru, a bad boy or girl, to arrive then at being more sort of clear. Now, gurus generally speaking, should, they forgive you and they give you advice to maybe how to tidy up your act and maybe not break your commitments. That's because, the good gurus have that quality. But wouldn't it be so much nicer just to go in front of your guru and say, hey, I got my act together, I've kept my commitment. So Guru Yoga has got a couple of very good qualities. One is it makes you a lot more receptive to the teachings because you have admiration. So for example, let's say if you're listening to a teacher and maybe you studied a little bit and then you think, oh, I know more than that teacher. That teacher's not giving the same commentary I had. If you have that type of mind, automatically you just ruin the whole transmission. And attending teachings, even the most basic ones, 10, 20, 30, 40 times in your lifespan, nothing wrong with that because you go there with an open mind. There's what's called the three vases. You do not want to be like the three containers. One is that you're turned upside down. That means nothing can be put inside of you, you're closed. The second one is you're a container, but you've got a crack. No matter what's poured into it, it leaks out. And then the third one is that you're actually polluted. You've got a really bad attitude, or you have some sort of bias or prejudice. Whatever's put in there gets immediately polluted by that. So you want to avoid those three types of basic bad attitude. One is you want to be open, so you're like a container upright. Two, you want to be mindful, that is, remember that what you've been taught. That's not having the crack. And the third is not being overly opinionated about things. So that pollutes who you are and what you're doing. So if you have those sorts of qualities and you're with a guru that's a good guru, that has good qualifications, then basically things go well. And for example, in my tradition, there's a thing called the 10 qualities of a guru. And then there's, the 10 qualities of a tantric guru. There's all sorts of things. But I like the Sakyapa tradition, basically, that if you have a teacher, there's three things that they should have. They should have lineage and have studied. Two, they should have some practice. And three, they have compassion. So that they have actual teachings and they've studied and such like that, that's really important because they're educated, that they're actually involved in the practice, they're actually doing something with themselves. They have ethics. They're not killing, stealing, and lying or whatever else, things like that. So they have ethics. And the third one is they have compassion. Meaning is they're willing to spend time with you, and even if you don't understand things, they're willing to be patient with you. So those are the types of sort of the most basic qualities of want with a teacher, that they're educated, they have ethics, they practice, and that they have compassion, that they're willing to try to help you. So your Guru Yoga, again, the more you study, the more you put time into it, then you can get good understanding. Do be a little careful if, for example, you took what's called the Great Presentation of the Graduated Path by Tsongkhapa, or some other ones. Sometimes they start off with this incredible load of Guru Yoga, and if you have one bad thought about your guru, you're going to go to hell forever. I'd really recommend that you sort of put that a little bit aside. If you practice and you have good teachers, your admiration of your teacher will grow naturally. And yes, sometimes we have bad thoughts or just sort of crazy minds that think bad things about the gurus. We just know, okay, sometimes I've got an opinionated mind, or I've got arrogance about myself or whatever. Okay, hey, I just understand that's a blockage to basically growing. So being humble, open-minded, positively motivated, those are the real qualities you want. So your Guru Yoga practice is that. It's making you more receptive. And again, so I just recommend that be a little careful about studying all the rules and regulations of Guru Yoga, because, although if you're a really high-end practitioner, they might be applicable, like if Milarepa with Marpa, Marpa beat him and abused him and had him build houses for him and stuff. But, Milarepa killed 34 people. He had a substantial reason why he would be able to accept that type of abuse. If I got heavy with any one of you guys, like sort of started pushing you around, you just say, fuck off, Jampa, and you leave. You don't have, one, you don't have a big reason why you're here other than maybe you're interested or you got a lot of good karma. But two is that there's not, it's a different culture. So I think most good teachers nowadays appreciate that, being kind and receptive is really important. Maybe if you do have some unbelievably good insight, you might do something a little more interactive with a student. But basically, just giving them teachings and trying to help them to practice is the best thing for gurus. So anyway, with Guru Yoga, what you're really doing is you're setting up a good, you might say, receptivity to teachings. And just a simple example, like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, I'll use that as an example. I have incredible respect for him and love for him and his compassion, universal compassion for all sentient beings. In fact, he's even willing to not sort of promote Buddhism for the sense of common sense. The Dalai Lama is an incredibly wonderful person. So if I suddenly heard that, like, the Dalai Lama, gave up being a monk and became married or something, it wouldn't bother me because I have the confidence in who he is and what he's doing with himself. Now, I'm not saying that we need to or hopefully that doesn't happen with our teachers, but the point is that when you study well and you get yourself well educated, you end up with a very solid foundation of why you appreciate your teachers. And so do recognize it as good to study. You know, I mean, get your practice together, get stability. And then when you're with a teacher, it's about becoming more enlightened. That's what it's really about. It's not about anything else. So gaining better capacity in myself, getting greater stability, greater confidence, that's a sign that I'm getting more enlightened. And that's what the gurus would like to see from you. Okay, so the final point with this is, you know, wonderful you guys are doing the retreat. I could say that it is the most incredible thing that you're doing. Why? Because normally from day to day, week to week, we're distant calls and normal stuff. You know, we're buying stuff, we're going to work, or we're doing this and that, dealing with a family situation. And you guys have taken 10 days out of your life to practice on your spirituality, your inner quality. Remember, spirituality isn't sort of, you know, being la. Inner quality or spiritual practice is, I have very good inner quality. I've got stability in my inner quality. So wonderful. You guys have taken 10 days out of your life. You're doing practice. You're doing something that's extraordinary, not normal for what you'd be doing. So great. And if you can do it again periodically, for example, Lama Yeshe, again, one of my teachers said at least once a year, try to take 2 or 3 weeks out of your regular life and put it towards a spiritual practice, or as a minimal thing. You guys are pretty young, and so I'm wow. I think it's wonderful, you know, because you have a lot of years ahead of you that you can basically put into practice and stuff, and let alone, I mean, of course, having a daily practice, which is good, and then periodically taking a weekend off, or maybe if you can't take a week out, or 4 or 5 days. Sometimes a weekend is sufficient. Friday night you start, Saturday you meditate long, Friday you go until midday, and then you sort of go back. Those are good little things. And what you're doing is you're cultivating yourself, and you're getting greater stability in who you are, what you think is important, and basically you're becoming a nicer guy or girl. And so in that way, it's really good. Okay, so final point then is don't have expectations. Don't think, gee, you know, I just did 10 days and I just feel the same, you know. Okay, forget it, you know, practice for 10 or 20 years and say, have I changed? You know, and then the funny thing is, because you guys are all lay people, is practice really well if you happen to be single. And then when you get into a relationship, you'll discover how badly you practiced. It's like that. I have lots of experience. So you can say that that if you are single, practice diligently, because then you'll gain the qualities and abilities to be more stable in a relationship, and you'll be challenged in a relationship. If you're in an existing relationship, then just know, okay, well, I'd like to offer the best I can. My practice is going to try to help me be a good partner, or you know, have a good relationship, whatever type of relationship you pick. But anyway, don't have expectations. Just do what you're doing. After 5 years, 10 years, maybe you can see something and say, "Oh, that's nice." Maybe even you can do it after, you know, a couple months or something. But the real shift is going to be with dedication over periods of years. Okay. So with that, then I'm going to unmute you, or you can unmute yourselves. And if you have questions.
Lama Jamba, so far for our Guru Yoga sessions, we've been using a Padmasambhava Guru Yoga text. And
Sure.
that was because some of the participants of the retreat have not received any Anantara Yoga Tantra empowerments.
Sure.
But now we received in the past weekend the Heruka Chakra Samvara and Vajrayogini empowerments.
Mm-hmm.
And we were thinking whether we can utilize the text that you have sent for the 6-session Guru Yoga in a group setting for our group Guru Yoga sessions. And
sure, that's good. Yeah, I mean, Padmasambhava is a Buddha. I have actually some lineages of Padmasambhava. I'm not a Nyingmapa practitioner. I don't do Dzogchen, but I do have some blessings. I actually got special private teachings from Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, which I consider unbelievably precious in my life. So just your Padmasambhava Guru Yoga, fine, because it's an enlightened being. So everything I've mentioned about enlightened beings applies. As for the 6-session Guru Yoga, yes, you know, I mean, let's say Generally speaking, Guru Yoga refers to a mantra or a set of prayers, like the 7-line prayer with Padmasambhava, or a particular name mantra or something like that. I would recommend that if you're going to do the 6-session Guru Yoga, that you'd focus on, for example, the mantra of Heruka Chakra Samvara. That's the Sri Vajrahehe Ruru Kam Soha. Like you do that, or something, or Vajragini's mantra if you wanted, with that identification, and just feel that all of the inspiration of all of the great practitioners of the Heruka Tantra enter into you. I mean, I actually, Padmasambhava practiced Heruka, although it's not one of the more major practices in the Nyingma tradition. It does exist. So, okay, so my thought would be that stick with the Padmasambhava practice if it's got a nice set of prayers and things with it. If you want to do 6-session Guru Yoga a few times, then doing refuge 3 times, invoke, or you generate Vajradhara. Then you do the lines of making offerings and requesting, and then you feel that the Guru absorbs into you. So you could pause at the end of doing the requesting, and then maybe if you wanted to do Guru Padmasambhava's mantra, that would be okay. I mean, or won't say that. Then when you feel that the Guru absorbs into you, I would recommend doing the 9 visions at the time of death. That's called taking death, barter, rebirth. Maybe if you're aware of that, then do that. If you're not aware of it, then basically just feel that you go to the pure light consciousness, and then you reanimate as of the deity. You can be either Heruka or Vajrayogini if you took those initiations, either one, whichever you would sort of prefer to. And then you do that deity's mantras. That would be the Guru Yoga of that. Later on, it would be good to get a Guru Yoga practice. For example, Lama Glang gives them. I might be giving one, not immediately, but maybe at the beginning of 2025, I could do something like that. Right now, I've got other things on my plate. So there are specific Guru Yoga practices that you could do, okay? So that's an answer to your question.
So we also include in a Guru Yoga your mantra, the Oma Guru, Vajradhara, Maitribhadra, Saravasiddhi, Hum Hum.
Okay. Yes, you could do that.
Thank you. I have another question about Guru Yoga.
Yeah.
I've heard other teachers that there is an energetic chakra above the physical body, which is around the length of your arm, the so-called 1,000-petal lotus chakra, which is just above the head of the individual. First of all, what's your opinion about this theory of the subtle body of this chakra? And if it does exist, in your opinion, can we merge that energetic point with our Guru, since it is visualized, we are seeing the Guru just above our head?
Okay. In the practices that I'm familiar with Tibetan Buddhism, there's no 1,000-petal chakra. Sorry. There's 32, 16, 8, 64, 32, and 8. That's the way we visualize. So I tend to think that's Hinduism, or maybe some New Age sort of presentation, but I don't know. It might exist in some other lineage. Certainly, I've never heard of it. I mean, I've heard of, 1,000-petal lotus, but I know it's not Buddhism. It's more Hinduism, or maybe New Age. What?
I've heard that from a Lama of Tibetan Buddhism.
Okay, I'm not familiar with it. Sorry.
Okay.
I mean, your crown chakra would be the one that would be, we could say it's 1,000-petal chakra, but that would be sort of like just a label to it. Physically, it has 32 petals to it. I'm sorry that whoever that Lama was, you'd have to ask them for their teachings. I don't know anything.
Isn't it in when you do the Vajrasattva, and Vajrasattva is sitting above your head, isn't Vajrasattva said to be on a 1,000-petaled white lotus?
Well, okay, that's a lotus. That's not a chakra.
Okay.
Maybe that's what the Lama was referring to, perhaps.
I mean, I'm not, how you say that the number of petals on a lotus that a Buddha sits on could be anything. The standard is normally 8, but it could be 1,000-petaled lotus. I mean, for example, Avalokiteshvara has 1,000 arms. So yeah, there are references to 1,000, but it's certainly not a chakra. It's a lotus. Okay, in that case, lotus, or with Avalokiteshvara, it's his arms.
We're going to use the Confessions of the 35 Buddhas for our prostrations. I'm wondering whether there is a more deeper meaning in the text. For example, in the mandala offerings, we know that you can visualize Mount Meru as the central energy channel and offer this to the Buddhas. Is there something similar to that sadhana?
No. I'm sorry. The 35 Buddhas, you know, well, there's a blessing in saying them, and then the big confession prayer, you know, it has a lot of meaning in the sense of feeling, you know, that you're going beyond your previous negativity. And I mean, the first part is confession, and the second part is rejoicing. So the 35 Buddha prayer, it doesn't have, you know, let's say, if you're nice and tidy and clean and, you know, got a good state of consciousness, that's a great foundation for all other practices you do. You're right, the mandala offering, there's what's called the outer, inner, and secret mandala. And so, yeah, the outer mandala is the offering you do. The inner mandala is your spine, your central channel, your eye, the sun and the moon are your 2 eyes. Your arms are the continents and subcontinents. Yeah, there's a more sort of thing. So yeah, there are teachings in that. Okay, but okay.
Final practical question about non-drone. In the literatures of other religions, I've noticed that they incorporate in their liturgy, in the ritual, the recitation of theoretical texts. For example, if you go into a Christian liturgy, there is the part where they're going to recite an excerpt from the Bible. Do you think we can do something similar with Lam Rim? We can incorporate this during our Guru Yoga session, for example.
Sure. I mean, you know, graduated path, there are verses that are written, which are quite nice. Again, you know, I mean, you appreciate them according to what you understand. So, you know, like if you did what's called the Lama Chopa, which is a guru offering, it's actually the main guru yoga practice within the Galupa lineage called Lama Chopa, or guru offering. In that, then there's a set of prayers at the end of having done the receiving of Om, Home in your body, speech, and mind, etc., of then the graduated path. So it says, you know, I appreciate my gurus. Hey, I want to take advantage of my life. May I go beyond the turbulence of samsara. And, you know, all the prayers have imagery and such teachings. There's a huge amount of teachings in that particular guru yoga practice. That would take quite a bit of time to teach that, but there is that. Or there's other shorter versions. I mean, it's called the All Good Qualities by Tsongkhapa. Or, you know, I mean, there's a couple other texts. So yes, you could do that. Yes. What text you use, your choice, but yes, you could do it.
Thank you very much. Guys?
Did you have any questions?
I had a question about the Vajrayogini. So I was wondering what the Samaya was, along with the mantra. Do we also have the commitment of doing soak twice a month, or is that separate?
Okay, the strict interpretation is that yes, every 2 weeks, according to the lunar calendar, on the 10th and 25th, you should do tsok. Because that's a little bit more complicated in our culture, because one, we don't have a lunar calendar. You can download them off the internet, so that's not too complicated, but it moves around. It's never on the sort of same day. Like, I mean, you go to church on Sunday, you know, or something that's nice and easy because it's just Sunday. The tsok offering is more based on the movement of the moon. So what I would recommend is, if you download a Tibetan calendar, or, you know, a lunar calendar that lists off the 10th and 25th, then fine. And if you can, then there's some very short practices of soak. You can do those. The other thing, though, what I recommend for most of my students, is just double your mantra. So if you promise to say 21 mantras, do 42 or whatever on the day of soak. Now, if you're uncertain of what day soaks are, then just double your mantras all the time. That's the sort of guarantees you're covered. But of course, if you can know that there's a soak day, like on your Google Calendar or something, scribble them in, so that every, or Yahoo Calendar or whatever, today's soak. And so then you are a little more conscious of soak, because those days are said to be that when the Daka Dakini, sort of all of the energy of the universe, is very favorable for spiritual experiences. So that's why we do soak on the 10th and 25th. It's also called Guru, like if you're doing Padmasambhava practice, there's Guru Rinpoche Day, which is Padmasambhava's day. That's one of the soak days. So so there's actually 3 ways to do it. One is you do soak every 2 weeks. The second one is you just double your mantras. The third one is you offer a candy to a young virgin. Now, unless it happens to be a niece or a nephew, you'll most likely get arrested. So don't do that one. It doesn't.
Yeah, don't do that here in the US. Probably not.
Not in the US. It's a bad idea. So the point is, I think the first 2 are the best. Now, here in Torreon, where I live in Mexico, every Sunday we do soak. Now, irrespective of whether it's a soak day or not, just every Sunday we do it. Takes a half an hour. We have our group. There's between 5 and 15 people that show up every Sunday. So that's what I have considered to be a good equivalent to doing soak every 2 weeks, because guarantees we do it. And then what we always publish the day that soak, that please double your mantras that day. So that's what we do here in Mexico. Because again, it's not part of our culture so easy to know when there's the 10th and 25th of a lunar calendar. So in regards to your commitment to Vajragini, yes, you do 6 Guru Yoga and Vajragini's mantra every day. You should, if in the Heruka Tantras, do soak every 2 times every week. I've now given you 2 options. Double your mantra for the deity, and that's particularly Vajragini. Heruka, you wouldn't need to do that. With Vajragini, you double the mantra. And if you can, do soak, and maybe you can do it online. For example, in Boise, Idaho, where I have a tantric group, they all go online, and they basically do soak together online on the days. So that's an option for you if you want, like 2 or 3 of you sort of say, hey, it's soak on Thursday. See you Thursday night at 8:00. Yeah, okay. And so you log in and do it. And there's short versions. For example, if you attended the initiation yesterday, Jonas and Gosha did a short version, took only I think 10 or 15 minutes. That's something, there are longer versions and stuff, okay? So I hope that answers your question.
I did. Thank you, Mama.
Anybody else? Jack, do you have anything?
Jack got a question.
Yes. No, come on. It's your time to shine.
Get in here, Bill.
Bring it on.
Okay. Now, you're on the 5th day, I think, of your retreat, so you have about 4 or 5 more days to go. I'll see you on Wednesday morning at 9:15 in the morning, my time zone, whatever it is for you guys. Okay, and at that point, then, if you have anything you want to share, I won't be really saying much. I'll just be, listening to whatever questions you might have. Okay, but for right now, just think of it this way: I've taken 10 days out of my life to do something which is not normal, and so be really happy. You're really lucky. You're dedicating some of your life energy towards doing something that's not that common, because normally we're always just doing mundane things. So be really happy about that. And there you go.
Thank you, Lama. Lama Zamba, do you have time for one more question? One
Sure.
final? Sorry. I'm persistent, I know. Today is the Preta Day, and we are thinking of going to a graveyard to make offerings to the local ghosts. Do you have anything to suggest to include in our practice?
No, I mean, if that's fine. I mean, you say, we know that there's birds and bees outside, and we know that there's animals like cats and dogs, so we can put offerings out for them, and we sort of physically can see them. Just because we can't see spirits doesn't mean they don't exist. So I think that's fine if that's what you'd like to do. If you have some little ritual that you do, then that's good. If not, you can just do a Mani Padme Hum, or Tar mantra or whatever. Those are just fine. And things, okay, that's a good idea.
Thank you, Lama.
Thank you, Lama.
Okay, so let's just dedicate that, hey, we're on a path to a more meaningful life, a life which is in harmony with reality. It's not some sort of fantasy, good. And I'm really happy about that. I dedicate myself to more practice and to deepening of my personal experience. So big hugs, take good care. And I will make this available on YouTube for you guys. Bye.
Thank you so much, Lama Jama.